Now, this isn't a regular thing that you're meant to do in a Citroen C3 every time you start up the car, but this happens so often now, it might as well be. And it's still not full. This is why I'm considering getting rid of this car. So this is probably going to be one of the very last times I'm going to start up this car. And, well, see that very nice illuminated panel. I'm getting emotional over a car, for Christ's sake. This is not something that's Pomerac behaviour, and yeah, I'm not going to miss that noise at all. The blimmin' beeping engine light that's been, well, it's been going like this for about, ooh, ages. This is going to be one of the very, yep. What happened there? Oh my god. I haven't closed the door. Great. What a start. Have I not closed one of the doors properly? Great. Great start. Pommy vlog number 3, and well, it's going great. Can you tell? Right. So there are many things that have taken place with this car. For example, many road trips. Many commuting journeys to and from work, adventures all over the country, and quite honestly, this has been a decent vehicle, and it's come with great regret that I am considering of getting rid of this. I mean, the time started in March of 2022 when I got this vehicle. I had been on 2 wheels for such a long time. I basically decided, you know what, this isn't working out for me. Why is my stereo just turned on? I'm just going to dispatch of you. That's better. Now, the thing is, I have had this car for over 3 years. I've had many adventures with this car. I have had 2 continental road trips with this car, and I wanted to do 3 of them. And I will get onto the road trip stories in a second, but what I will show you is the stats I've had from driving this thing. And in terms of maintenance, a lot of people would probably say it's a bit expensive when it comes to costs. But in terms of times that I've actually been to the garage, I don't classify it to be that much. I'm just going to open the app that gives me all the numbers, and hopefully you can see for yourself. Rita, Zoo and Bob too. Right, so going back to the very, very beginning of all time, I have covered 37,000 miles in this car, which is pretty decent feat. I mean, I drive about 10,000 miles in a year, so it's done all right considering it's been on 2 continental road trips. I've filled up with fuel 96 times. The total cost of servicing and maintenance is just under £1,500. Other expenses, these are things, fluids, windscreen wipers, things that are just accessories for the vehicle. You're looking at about £2,300. So in total, I've spent around a year's worth in university for things on this car, and it's around 23 pence a mile to run. On average, I get about 57.5 mpg in this, but you probably would have already known that if you watched the video I made on the Citroen C3. Go have a look. On average, I fill up about 2.34 times a month, but that is skewed, sort of, because during road trips, I'd be filling up at least once, twice, 3 times, 4 times a week. And nowadays, it's probably once a season. Pretty good. Insurance-wise, I can tell you my insurance price on this too. My most recent quote, my most recent policy is £333 for the year, which is, well, considering I'm 27 now, this is what I expected it to be after 10 years worth of driving, which I'm pretty happy with. Last year it was 398, so that's a huge decrease. by keeping a car that is 1.4 litres and I haven't really upgraded. Well, I have now, I didn't at the time, but yeah. Insurance before. Hastings in 2023 charged me £436. So again, it's crazy how the prices have just gone down and down and down, especially insurance wise. So here's a good tip for you: if you're learning how to drive, have a good record, because you will be rewarded in future. Diamond, my very first insurance provider, it was £390, but I think at that time I just wanted to get it on the road, and it was the same day as I was going to drive it away, so I literally just went for the cheapest as possible, third party only. My mum's a named driver, my nan's a named driver, everybody was on it just to make it cheaper. But as I started to get older and older, I realised that having less drivers make it cheaper. It's weird how insurance works, but I bought it with 112,600 miles, as you can see, and 14 litres. It was 26 quid, which is expensive, put it that way. But that is all of the costings that I've had on my Citroen, and it comes with great regret that I will be selling this, stroke scrapping this. I put an advert up today, funnily enough, to try and sell the vehicle, and it's got lots of faults. And to be honest, I didn't think anybody was going to buy it, and I was correct. Nobody wanted to buy it, and as a result, I'm going to be scrapping it, because the main reason of me holding on to this car for so long, even after I got the Dacia and the Mondeo, was because I wanted to go on one final road trip. I wanted to go to Eastern Europe. I wanted to go and see Romania. I got a mate who lives out there. I want to go see the Balkans, possibly drive up into the Baltic states, through Poland again. And I really wanted to make a name for this car. I wanted to immortalize this car, and I can't really do that in the state that it's in, because I've realized now there are so many faults with it. It's just not really worth carrying on with it. It's basically, I'm putting money for a lost cause thinking about it. It's not really worth the hassle. I can show you what the car is like. So this car is exceedingly hot, not just because it's beautiful, but it's because it is a diesel. It's recently, and I mean that probably over the last 9 months, it's all gone wrong. The engine light has gone off. Something is going very wrong with the thermostat and the temperature sensors in this engine. The hoses are coming off. I mean, it's roughly about the right time, 20-year-old car. The connections between the turbo and the engine, they're not as great. There's a lot of gunk in between where the hoses are supposed to be. This hose right here, that connects to nothing at all, so I've had no idea what that's done since I've had the car. It rapidly loses coolant, so I'll leave the car for about 3 days and that will be empty. And I was advised by my uncle, I'll get some sealant in it, it should be okay. And if it does, well, if it doesn't seal it, it's usually a major engine issue. I thought it was a head gasket, but I had a look in the engine cap. There's no white milky deposit, so I assumed it wouldn't have been that, but it sounds dreadful. When I try to rev the car, it sounds dreadful. So it sounds like it should have gone to a Swiss clinic a long time ago, but I've wanted to hold out for long enough just so I can at least take it on some trip. But I'm going to be honest, with the amount of money it's going to cost to get this fully spick and span roadworthy back on to its former glory, ready to take on Eastern Europe, it won't be worth it. I mean, it's all well and good having a car that's, you know, possibly going to have an engine that's going to die at any minute. Oh, there's some leaking oil at the front of the engine there too, so that's nice. It's all well and good having a car that's possibly going to die on you, but it's worse if you're in a country that you don't know. And this is what I mean with the road tripping. I've been to all of these countries. Now, bear in mind, all of these flags here, this was inspired by a man in Guildford. I can't remember who he was, but I knew he had a Jaguar, and he had a personalised plate, and he had all of the flags of all the countries that his car has been to on the back window. And I noticed this. We were stopped at the Spanish border coming out of Andorra because we had English passports and we had an English car, and I just noticed this and I thought, right, I got to copy this for myself. So this is a car that's started in the UK, drove to France, through Andorra into Spain. That was the first road trip. The second road trip, obviously UK and France, then Belgium, Netherlands, Germany, drove to Poland, didn't stay there for too long, Czech Republic, Austria, beautiful country, Liechtenstein, Switzerland, that sucked. I was only there for about 5 minutes. Italy, I was there for about 15 minutes. I've been there before, but only about 15-20 minutes in the car. And finally Luxembourg. And then the next thing was going to be all the other countries I intended to go to in like a pattern like this, or top down like that, so it would have been on both sides of the window, and that would have been how it would have been. But given how the state of this car is now, it really should have died a long time ago. And admittedly, when I lost the keys for my Dacia Sandero in April, even though I detest that car because it's got no personality, no style, no charm, this was my daily for about a month. And you could easily tell by every time you put your foot on the brake, the accelerator, every time that the engine light noise goes off, it needed urgent medical attention. So it felt bad, it felt rough, it felt ill, it felt sick, it was disgusting, and I needed to do something about it. So, you know, I just thought, why am I pursuing this? Why am I still carrying on with this? And then after getting the Mondeo, it dawned on me that I had 3 cars. And I'm not just saying this because, oh, my other half is always right, but it really came hitting me like a train that you've got 3 cars, but you can only drive one at a time. So I just thought, this has got charm, this has got personality, but at the same time, it ain't gonna last. Out of all of them, this is the least likely to make it past its next birthday. This doesn't have any survival chances now whatsoever. It's done its time and it's lived a decent life. So I think now is the most logical time to get rid of it. And it's a shame because I had my French Crit Air sticker, I had my German Clean Air sticker, Umwelt plaquette, and I got all the flags on the back window, and it's always been lingering me that I've wanted to carry on driving this thing. And my fiance's dad even said to me, that's the one thing you wanted to do with this car, the one thing you wanted to do with it was take it on a road trip. Well, I can't. I physically cannot do that because the amount of money it would cost to just keep it there, to keep it insured, even if I'm just switching it on, I'm driving it about once a week just to keep, you know, all the petrol, diesel even if I start it once a week just to get the diesel and the oil flowing, it sounds bad. It doesn't give me any hope that this is going to survive. And I've had this for 3 years and I've been optimistic. I've been hopeful and optimistic for 3 years, but now it's just a time where I think I cannot keep this anymore. And you get much more interest in road trips when you go 20 miles in the Mondeo than when you do 200 miles in this, because this isn't quite vintage yet. This isn't quite the interesting car. Yes, this car has a story, but it's not got the personality that other cars would have at that point. And it's a shame. It's a real shame, but I've got to accept that this car doesn't really have a future anymore, so it will unfortunately be scrapped if I can't sell it, and it is going to be looking like it's going down the scrap route. The very first road trip that I did in this was to France, Andorra and Spain. It was with my best friend Louise, and On the first day, we went to see my French football team, my favourite French football team, Estac Trois. We saw them play Rennes at the Stade de l'Aube, and we had a fantastic time just in that day. French football atmosphere, pretty nice. It was a 1-1 draw, but still it was very good time, good thing to be a part of. Next day, we drove for about 6 to 7 hours. We split the drive in, Louise and I, and we ended up going through Clermont-Ferrand, absolute shithole of a city, and we stayed in a little village about 5 minutes drive away from the Millau Viaduct. The very next day, naturally, I drove on the Millau Viaduct. Beautiful piece of engineering, beautiful road, and that was on the way to Andorra. Andorra, very interesting country, massive duty-free shop, if countries could be duty-free shops. Amazing place. Met an Argentinian lady who was running the hotel. Very nice people in Andorra. Then the next day we went to Spain, and our stopping point that evening was in Valencia, but we had to get out of Andorra first. We were stopped at the Andorra-Spain border because Andorra is not in the EU, so there is a border crossing between Andorra and Spain, and France and Andorra. We weren't stopped coming into Andorra from France, but we were stopped when we were coming back to Spain. We weren't stopped going from France to Andorra, but we were stopped going from Andorra into Spain. So we were told to wait for a couple of minutes, and this is where I noticed the Jag with all the flags on the back of his window. About 2 minutes later, they said, yeah, come in, you're absolutely fine. So we drove to Valencia, went to a campsite outside of Valencia in Betera, very nice town, and spent a lot of time just meeting the locals there. It was a good town, it was a good place. And then after that, we went down the coast and we drove to what was my former family home in Murcia, Spain. And I had a who do you think you are moment. I had a bit of an emotional experience. That was probably, and still is, the best day of my life. Drove down to my old family home, seeing how the new owners have looked after the place. Going to a village that I've got a lot of affinity for. Going to the beach that I used to go to quite often when I was a kid. And just having a meal with my best friend, enjoying the sunset, and going to an old fort that, again, I saw when I was a kid. Granted, that was the day that the Queen died, but again, best day of my life. So staying in Murcia. Next day we drove to Madrid. Then after Madrid, Valladolid. No, sorry, I beg your pardon. Then after Madrid, we drove to probably the most beautiful place I've ever seen on the planet, Coca. It's a very small town, about 1,000 people, in Castile and Leon in Spain. Beautiful, beautiful place. Very friendly people, very nice town. And on the way from there, we drove to Valladolid and Burgos for another football match. And then from Burgos, we were camping in the Basque country, through Irun and back into France. And then in France, stayed in Bordeaux for a couple of nights, up to a place called Saumur, which I believe has a connection with Coco Chanel. Not 100% sure what the connection with Coco Chanel was, but there is a Coco Chanel connection, nevertheless. Then we drove up to Normandy, saw the British Memorial, the British World War II Memorial, along with the Bayeux Tapestry. That was a very beautiful place, the best fish pie I've ever had in Bayeux. And then later that evening, stayed in a hotel in Dieppe before catching the ferry home. And that was the road trip going to France in 2022. That was a very, very optimal time of my life. I was very, very happy with going to France. and Spain and Andorra. The second road trip was in 2024. It's with my fiance, Mrs. Pomerak, to the ferry port in Dover, Calais through Belgium into the Netherlands. Stopped at a McDonald's, I think in Amelo. I think that was the place we stopped in, before going to Bielefeld. There used to be a family connection with Bielefeld. There were members of my family who resided in Bielefeld for a long time, much longer than I lived in Spain for. So my fiance and I, we stayed in Bielefeld for the night. Then we drove to Dresden. Dresden was good. Dresden was a very nice place to be. Stayed in a hostel, massive place, and we took the tram. We decided, you know what, I'm not gonna drive for the night. I'm just gonna catch the trams around the city, and we're gonna have a good time. Then after that, we went to Prague via Poland. So we crossed into the same town that Top Gear went into when they made that video when they broke for the German border. In Zagorzelec, we stopped there for some food, went shopping. So there was Carrefour there, which was nice. And so after about 2 hours in Poland, drove straight into Czech Republic. I almost got a fine because I didn't know that you had to have your headlights on at all times, 24 hours a day. And I was being flashed by some cars, and I was thinking, why are they flashing? And then I clocked it. Every other car had their headlights on, so I thought, oh I need to put my headlights on. And I put my headlights on. Stayed in Prague. I decided, you know what, we're gonna leave the car for a day. We're not gonna drive it at all. We're gonna leave it parked at the hotel. We're just gonna catch trams in and around Prague. And then 2 days later, Prague into a campsite, back into Germany in a place called Pielenhofen. Very nice photos I've got of the car, and this is one of them. And then after that, we drove into Feldkirch in Austria. The intention was to go to Liechtenstein, but it was just as nice. But there was this very nice place to stay that was in Feldkirch, and I was thinking to myself, we got the best of both worlds. We can go to Germany, we can go to Austria, we can go to Switzerland, we can go Liechtenstein, everywhere from there. Whereas if we went into Liechtenstein, we probably had to spend more money because they use Swiss francs, and therefore they're in the Swiss customs area, so we'd have to pay more money for things. Stay in Austria, things are a bit cheaper. Best decision. Feldkirch is one of the nicest places I've ever been to. Very nice restaurants, very nice people, townspeople, absolutely friendly, very welcoming. And one of the only places that we went to that had English television, which is interesting. Very next day in Feldkirch, the missus and I drove into Liechtenstein, had a day there, which was all right. And then we drove into Switzerland. Now, Switzerland was weird because I think it was because it was a Sunday or a Monday. I'm thinking it was a Sunday, because everything was closed. Everything in Switzerland was closed. We went into a little car park, shut. Just things in the supermarket, nobody was on the roads, just everything was closed. So we thought, you know what, this is boring, we're going to go back to Liechtenstein. So we spent about 5 minutes in Switzerland, which is the record for the shortest time I've ever spent in the country. Back into Liechtenstein, back into Austria, and think, yeah, Austria's quite nice. We're gonna spend the rest of our evening there, and we did. And then the following day, we drove from Austria on the 29th of April to Neuschwanstein Castle in Germany. And I did that for a very, very specific reason. That is the place and the day where I proposed to Mrs. Pomerak. And 29th of April because that was our anniversary date and I want to keep it easy. And Neuschwanstein Castle because it's just a fantasy in the mind. And I've never seen so many people with so many different foreign number plates. You could see English number plates, Turkish number plates. I saw an Australian number plate. Admittedly, I also saw a Canadian number plate on the last road trip when I was in Valencia, but Australian number plate takes the biscuit. It was incredible. But yeah, after that, went back to the hotel in Feldkirch after I proposed to the missus. She had a nap, and I thought, you know what, why don't we get a pizza? So I got a pizza, and I drove to the pizzeria on the Italian border. So I drove to Italy, and I got a pizza from Italy, 2 hours away from where we were staying in Austria. So drove 2 hours to the Italian border to get a pizza. 2 hours back, it was stone cold, but genuine Italian pizza. You can't not miss that opportunity. Right, following day, again, it was a bit of a burner one. It was mostly driving. It was from Feldkirch, Austria to, where was it? Heidelberg. We stayed in a place called Heidelberg in Germany. Bit small, bit brief, not too much to see or do there, I'm afraid. And it was just, we'll stay there overnight and we'll just leave the next day. Because the next day, we were off to Luxembourg and we were going to stay there for another day. So we were just going to park the car and just catch the free public transport in Luxembourg. Luxembourg has free public transit. So we decided, you know what, we'll just park at where we're staying. It was a house stay, owned by a Spanish family. So I ended up using my elementary Spanish that I have been using for a number of years to this family in Luxembourg, out of all places, and just asking them, oh, what's there to do around here, or how long have you owned the house, just having to, you know, getting to know my hosts. So that was a decent part of the trip. Spending time in Luxembourg City was pretty nice. It would have been better if we weren't both ill. We were both pretty ill. We were both pretty under the weather. I think we were just pretty sick and tired of all the travelling. And we had some cheese from an Austrian vending machine that we kept in the glove box for about 2 days, and it was absolutely terrible. And that's probably what's caused us to be the way that we are. And after Luxembourg, we went straight back to England. And that was the road trip. That's been the road trip diaries. And that's been the road trip history of this car. I appreciate it's getting very, very, very late in the evening. And I will most likely be scrapping this car. So this is my interesting, gorgeous, hard-wearing, absolute unit of a car that I've had for over 3 years, and it is an emotional goodbye. Nobody really wants to let go of things, but sometimes just holding on does a lot more damage than letting go. And now, as much as I don't want to, because I want to think, yeah, we can get all the car back together, we can, you know, rebuild the engine, we can, you know, sweep it through all the maintenance that it needs to go through. It's not worth keeping it on. And the truth is, I would love to keep this car, but all of the journeys, all of the stories that I've been able to tell with this car are just incredible. They're never going to be topped, especially with the road trips that I've done in this, not just in the UK but the international ones too. The ambition that I've had with this car, I wanted to take this car to Turkey and drive it home, and or possibly donate it for Citroen Museum in Denmark. So it's had a lot of aspiration, and quite honestly, I don't really want to give this up, but it is time. It's had its time, and it's incredible for a car, and it's got to go though. So I probably will be scrapping this because nobody is going to buy it. But yeah, you'll know when I scrap it. And well, until that time comes, thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe if you want to see more content like this on the channel. And I'm going to leave you with this emotional goodbye. So see ya.